we want to look at the concept of creating private variables and how we can modify private variables from outside the class. First of all, we're going to go through this way. We're going to prove or show the working of a private property that is cannot be accessed. That is, when we talk about access, we mean get or set. Get the value, can't get its value, or set a value to its variable outside the class. Okay, so we want to prove this. So how do we prove this? Let's create a class. Let's call the class a public class. This class is public car. Let's assume it has two properties. The property name as string, and property say type, property type as string. So please, let's put this as a private property. So, and let's make this a public property. So we'll just go ahead and quickly create a constructor, and of course, you know, the constructor is sub new. And then what do you want to do in the constructor? You want to take in name as string and type as string. Of course, these are object variables. These are the parameters for the constructor. So, and you want to say me dot name. Of course, the class name. Let's call this class name me dot name is equal to name, of course, and then me dot this type. Of course, that's what you do there, equals type. Now we want to now come to the sub main, and then want to create an object of the class, which is dim my car as new car. In my car as new car. So, and then the want the name as Toyota. Name is Toyota Corolla, and the type is V6. Okay, so then we want to do console the right line the public property name is of course my car dot name. Okay, so that's the public property. Of course, we know we will get the public property. Let's run the program. You will see the public property clearly. You're going to get it because the scope is public, so you can even access. Okay, good. The public property is Toyota Corolla. Okay, now let's try to access the private property from outside the class. So the private property also the private property type is my car dot. Of course, you can't get type here. You see, it's not showing. You can't get type. Okay, you can't get it from there. So you see, it's not under the list. So if you put type here, if you try to put type here, whatever you try to put, it's going to tell you car type is not accessible in this context because it is private. So you cannot access a private property outside its class, so it's not accessible. So you can't do anything. You can't access that value. Now, we have been able to prove or show the working of a private property. It means that the object, my car, cannot access any private property of the class car. So now we want to look for, the main thing now is we want to show how to, okay, let's see, we want to show you how to access, which is, to access means to get its value or set its value to a variable. You want to change, modify it, you want to access it, you want to see what is inside, or you want to change what is inside. That's what we mean by access, to get or a set. It's either you read to it or you write to it. So we call it get set. Okay, you want to get set, you want to get or set the value, or set the value, set a value to its variable. You want to get a value or you set a value to its variable. Okay, so let's show you how to do that with a private property. We're going to be using an accessor to do that. And so the accessor will be public property, call another type, this as string, and then in this case you're going to end property. So it's like a block, different from the one you used to call here public property and you just stop in that line. Here it's public property type this, and then you have end property. Okay, so now we're going to do a get set. A get set, look at it, get, end get, set, end set. So this method inside the public property accessor would, look at what it will do. It is going to get the property, that is going to help you get the value of the private property. So we know the private property to be type, so we want to get it. All we need to do is to return the private property, because you want to get its value. So just return it, because you are inside the class, so it can allow you access this value inside the class. So in the get method of the public property block, you want to return the value, so that anytime you call this value, it will just, once you are doing a get operation, it's going to return the private value. And then once you want to set a value, you want to modify or change it, you just come here and you say, what value do you want to modify? You want to modify the type. Okay, you take this as string. Okay, sorry, you take this name, you want to pass in the type, so you take this string type. Okay, then you come here and say your me dot type is equal to, you want to set this value now, so me dot underscore type is equal to type. So we are modifying the value. So whenever we call this value, we want to get it. Once we type this value, it will return this. And once we set a value to this value, once we set a value to this property, what it will be doing is, it is going to take this type as string and pass it into this. So let's see what we have done. Let's come back here and say console.writeLine, the private property of this is my car dot underscore type, my car dot type. Okay, so this is type, so this is type, my car dot type. Okay, so let's run this program and see what it gives us. Okay, so you see v6, we can get that value now. We can get it because we are calling, at this point now, we are calling the private value. In the first time we couldn't get it, but we're using this type now to get, we're using this type which is a public property here, to force that anytime we need the value, anytime we want to read the value, it will call the get method and will return the private member. Or anytime we want to set a value to it, we're going to call the type. We're going to set, like we're going to do me dot this, that is the private variable. We are carrying this variable, we're taking this variable and you are assigning it to this variable. So you are taking this value, whatever it is you want to set it with. So it doesn't matter anything you want to set here. So what matters here is you can just use a type. You can decide to just use a value. You can just call it a value to be set. You can call it a value to be set. Or you just call it value, but you just know that's the value you want to set and change it to value so that the value will be passed to that type. If you still run the program, it's going to give you still that same value. So still going to give you, we'll be able to access the private value. So you see the output come up. Program still running. It's going to give you the value. See, it's taking a little time, so it's coming up. It's coming up. So because it will take the value you want to set as this is a parameter, and it will just pass the value here. And if you want to read it, it will just return the private variable. It will just return the private variable. So if you want to read it, so that's typically, we're still waiting for the program to come up. The console, what's wrong on the console? It's coming. It's likely to my memory because there are no errors. We don't have any error, no error. Possibly it's going to come up. Want to see this? Let's see. So in the constructor, we are passing the type, which is a parameter, to the new constructor to replace the private variable. But this will not happen. This will not happen except we have created a constructor. Except we have created a constructor, it will not happen. Okay, so let's see. Let me end this and run the program again. Okay, yeah, so this is it. So it's showing us the private variable. Now we've gotten the private variable. What if we want to modify? Let's go ahead. Okay, let's say here, this code below, the code below is to get the private variable type, which we did. Now, how do we set it? So the code below modifies or changes or sets the value of the private variable. So let's do it. So now how do we do it? It's just simple. We're going to say my car dot type is equal to, give it a new value. The new value was, the former value was v6. Let's make it now v4. So v4, and then we come back. Let's display the new value after we have changed it. So let's display the new value. The new value will no longer be, you see how we are playing around with the private variable. Which want to change the value, which is calling the set method. This will call, this code below is going to call, this code here is calling the set method because we are assigning value to that type. Okay, so let's see what happens. Good, it was formerly v6. The private property was, name is v6, and then when we were using the get method, we just called it the same way it was, and later on we decided to set the method and we got a v4. Okay, so this is practically all you need to know, that whenever you are dealing with a private variable, you need the accessor, the public property accessor, to get or set the method if you want to use it outside the class, because Private properties are only useful in the class except you use an accessor like public property to get it. And what we do there is to just return, since we are in this class, we are still in the public class car. Since we are in this class, you can see this class is here and this public property is here. So we can still access the type. So what we are doing is the get method returns the type. And when we are setting it, the value replace also the type. So it's as simple as that. And then from that, you can modify. And this is actually what this concept, the whole concept here is what is called encapsulation in object-oriented programming. The whole concept, everything here is teaching us about encapsulation, sorry, encapsulation, and that is called data hiding. You hide data, you hide information. Okay, you are hiding the property type, and so you hide it from, you let the variable be hidden from other class while you make it available to other class. So you only, if you anybody must access this variable, this accessor must be present in the class, otherwise they will not be able to access it and it remains hidden. For example, if you are dealing with multiple pages, like where you need to move, for example, you've just logged in successfully and you need to just pass only the username to, and they pass the username from one class to the other, and you don't want to pass the password, or you don't want to pass some season value, you are going to make those season values and password private, so that whenever you move to the other page, it won't be accessible. They may all be properties of the class, but you just decide that it will not, when you move to when you advance to the next class, those variables should not be accessible. So without having this, it means that no other class will be able to access the variable. So this is one of the things we learn in object-oriented programming, and this is data hiding. So thank you. See you with your comments, your questions as comment. Thank you for watching. Thank you. All right, so we end now. I will continue next time.